Daniel 11 now. Okay. I'll comment as I go because it's the biggest exhaustive prophecy. Anyways, I'll take chapter 11. Now, after it was Jesus Christ talking in a couple last verses of the previous chapter, how Michael helped him. God just uses the angels. I don't know how all that works against Satan, who he lets rule. God sets up the rulers and the kingdoms, and he lets Satan do his things to do the work. I don't know how, just like he let him attack Job, but not kill him. But either way, he said that Michael helped him against the king of Persia and then the king of Greek. That's what God set up. This is Jesus talking. Now he says in verse 2, now I tell you then the truth, three more kings will arise, appear in Persia. And they were after Cyrus, the first king. They were, first there was Bardia. He lasted a couple months in 522. Then 522 to 530. Sorry, 530 to 522 was this Cambius, the son of Cyrus. And then 522, just for a couple months, it was Bardia. And then the third one was Darius, the first. I don't have time to explain how. Anyhow, and then after Darius, there'll become a fourth one, it says. A fourth one. And that was Darius' son, Darius the Great, the first, Xerxes I. Okay? Hey, hang on. Let me find it. And then a fourth will be far richer, Xerxes the first, than all the others. When he has gained power and his wealth, and in history, I'll tell you, he will stir up everything against Greece. God probably stirred him against Greece to get Greece upset and let Greece win, because he said that will be the next ruling empire. That's what happened. And he was mightier and wealthier. Okay, Xerxes I. And he's the one who attacked Greece. He was the fourth king. Then a mighty king will appear after him. That's Alexander the Great from the Greco-Macedonian Empire. But he won't last long, and his kingdoms of the four winds will be scattered, the north, south, east, west, his four generals, okay? And his four generals were, okay, Ptolemy Soter, the first, who had Egypt, and it lasted till Cleopatra the seventh, Palestine and Sicilia. And then it was Seleucus the first, Nicator, the area of Babylon, Syria, and eastern Persia, which is modern-day Iran. That was the Seleucid Empire. Then it was Cassander. He had Macedonia and Greece. Then these names of the four generals to the winds scattered. Lysimachus had Thrace, which was southern eastern Europe, like Bulgaria area, and Asia Minor, Turkey. Okay, those were the four. Now, where are we here? It will not go to his descendants. It went to his generals, not to the descendants bloodline of Alexander the Great. Nor will it have the same power as Alexander, because split in four, like 25% each, because empire will be uprooted and given to others, not his bloodline, the four generals. Exactly in history. The king of the south will become strong. Now this is mostly the dynasty of the south of Egypt, the Ptolemies, and the north, which is the Syria area, the Seleucid dynasty. The king of the south here became strong, but one of his commanders will become even. Oh, that was the first one, Ptolemy, most likely here in history. He was trying to get the kingdom together, because even though Alexander the Great set him up, he was having difficulty with other challengers and that. He finally, one of his commanders were stronger than him, but eventually made up with him, and they solidified things. He had his own kingdom, right? One of his commanders with great power. After some years, they will become allies. There you go. Okay, what I said. The daughter of the king of the south will go to the king of the north. Now this is kind of dual again. It happened in history. Duish too, Latin. First, the king of Ptolemy the first. The daughter. I think she was a Bernice too. Don't quote me, but she married a king in Greece. They're known as Ancratids, after Cassander, who took over after Alexander in Greece and Macedonia. They're known as Ancratids, something like that, roughly. And Ptolemy's daughter married, right? And she had a son. Okay, it's like a duality here. But also, Bernice, the daughter of the king of the south, will go to the king of the north to make an alliance. That happened twice. I think there was an alliance, what I just said. The daughter of Ptolemy, they married in the south with the Macedonian Greek Cassandra's lineage, the Acraids. But also the daughter of Cyrenaica, Cyrus, Bernice II, she also, her mother, Apama II, had a ruse and asked the son of, which was the grandson of Ptolemy I, because that was the son of the other Bernice, okay, and that ruler. So they're all incestuous, like many kings, okay. So Apama went to him and said, "Hey, marry my daughter Bernice II, right, and you'll be the king of Cyrenaica," which later amalgamated with Egypt and became even stronger. So that's what happened, okay. So the daughter of the south, like a duality here I explained, went to the north, made alliance, but she will not retain her power, and his power will not last. I'll explain after a couple of verses here. In those days she will be handed over together with her royal escort and her father and the one who supported her. That's to verse 6. Now Bernice II, one I mentioned, who was the daughter of Apama II in Cyrene, which I explained, which amalgamated with Ptolemy's empire in Egypt, she went to marry to that son I told you, which was the grandson of Ptolemy, the son of his, I explained, the other Bernice or whatever name was, no, something else. He was her son, which was the daughter of Ptolemy, so keep it in the family. But she promised the kingdom of Cyrene before they amalgamated with Ptolemy, the dynasty, right, the rest of Egypt. And he did that, and he became king for a little while. But what happened is he was dumb enough to have an affair with the Apama II, the mother of Bernice II. So Bernice made a ruse and killed him. His name was, hang on, I'll get it here. It's here. Give me a second here. Bernice the father. Her father was a Magus of Cyrene and married Demetrius, called the Fair. He must have been handsome. And Antigonoid, that's the followers after Cassander, the general in Greece, Macedonia for Alexander the Great. Right, to seal the alliance I told you, right, about. And he became king of Cyrenaica. Okay, he was born to, again, Demetrius I, the besieger called, and Potolinas, the daughter of Ptolemy I. Okay? So, Ptolemy I Soter. Okay? But what happened was the mother Apama set it up, the kingdom and everything, and give him the kingdom. She had an affair with him, his mother-in-law. And Bernice found out about it, and she set him up whilst he was in an affair with his mother-in-law, the handsome Demetrius, the fair, the handsome one. She got her soldiers to storm in there and kill him. Okay, but she spared her mother, right? Anyhow, after that, let me pick it up here. That's like so back to here. She'll be handed over together with her royal escort and her father and the one who supported her. Well, the one who supported her was her mother who set this up. And again, I told you about the duality, right? I'll take it verse 7. I want to rehash it. One from her family, I think this is pretty sure in history of Bernice II, the same lady, because she killed her husband. One from her family, that would be Ptolemy III. She married him now because she killed her first husband. Ptolemy III is, well, he was of the lineage of the Ptolemies, somehow, I'm pretty sure. But he was the next successor, and they amalgamated with Cyrene. Anyhow, that was her next husband. One from her family, Ptolemy III, line, her second husband, will arise and take her place because she was ruling, but when he married her, now he's the king, you know. Okay, take her place. He will attack the fortresses of the king of the north. Now, Ptolemy, I'll just read it and I'll comment after a couple of verses at the end of this part. It goes on, goes back and forth, different kings. And enter his fortress. Ptolemy III attacked the king of the north. He will fight against them and be victorious. Ptolemy III was victorious against the Seleucid king, which was Antiochus, which was, hang on, let me see here. Let me pick it up here. Sorry, it was Antiochus III. He fought the king of the south, just married Bernice II. He fought against the king of the north, which was Seleucus II, Callinicus. Okay, and he was victorious, and he carried away great treasure, as it says here. Okay. He will also seize their gods and valuable things and take them to Egypt. For some years he will leave the king of the north alone. Then the king of the north, I'll comment after again. He left him for many years, like 15 years or something it took, 13, 15 years. Then the king of the north will invade. Well, what happened? I got to stop there. What happened was the reason why Ptolemy the third went back to Egypt because they were having an uprising of taxes, like a civil war. So he had to leave. And right, so all the land he gained from fighting Seleucus II, Callicicus gained back by fighting. It says here he'll take it to the end of his fortress, what he had before, and he take it back because it was part of now Ptolemy IV, right? He gained it, but now we went back to Egypt. He lost it. Seleucus II, Callinicus took it back, and that's what it means. But here I'll read to the end of his fortress, right? And then it'll say here his sons. One was like a mediator between the war between the two. The Ptolemy in the south and the north, and it was almost a civil war. That's all they did. It was something like that. Okay, so I'll read it here. What I said. One from her family, Ptolemy IV, will rise, take his place. He'll attack the force. He'll be victorious. I said that. Take his money. He'll go back to Egypt because of the uprising. I explained that. Excuse me. Take their gods and everything. For some years, 13, 15 years, there'll be a lull. And then King of North will attack and just get his land back. Then the kings. See, he'll invade the realm of the south, but that's just the land that the south took, right? His kingdom back. He will retreat to his own countries. But then his sons will prepare war and assemble a great army, which will sweep away, like they fought back their territory. That's it. It was basically a civil war too, and well, I explained that. And carry the battle as far as his fortress, meaning he got his land back as far as his previous land from the king of the south, because he had to go back. Ptolemy the third had to go back to defend his own land. That was being, again, uprising through taxes and such. People were revolting. Then the king of the south will march out and rage. Now it's Ptolemy the fourth. Okay, these are called the Syrian wars, the second, third, fourth, up to the sixth. I don't have time to put that in here. Then the king of the south is Ptolemy the fourth, the son of Ptolemy the third. We will march out again against the king of the north. That's the Ptolemy against the Seleucid dynasty, Syria area, and the Ptolemy in Egypt area. Okay, so now the Ptolemy the fourth in Egypt area marches out the king of the north, right? Now who was the king at that time? Hang on. Then Ptolemy. Okay, then the king of the north now here. Then the king of the south, which is Ptolemy the fourth now, march again against the king of the north. But in this case, the king of the north now is the son of Seleucus II, Seleucus, which is Antiochus the Great, and Antiochus the Great the third. And he'll raise a large army, but will be defeated. The north was defeated. Antiochus the third was defeated. Ptolemy the fourth won. When the army is carried off, the king of the south, Ptolemy the fourth, will be filled with pride and kill thousands, and yet will not remain triumph. For the king of the north will muster another army. Okay, now the king of the north is Antiochus III, the son of Seleucus II, Callinicus. Okay, now the king of the north, Antiochus III the Great, now will muster another army larger than the first. After several years, he will advance with a huge army fully equipped. In those times, many will rise against the king of the south because they're having civil war and everything, have a lot of problems. The violent men, even among your own people, the Jews, because he's talking to Daniel here. Those Maccabees were revolters and that. They will rebel according to this vision, fulfillment of the vision, but without success. The king of the north, that's Antiochus III now, will come and build a siege ramp and will capture a fortified city. Now that's against, now he's going against Ptolemy V, okay? The forces of the south will be powerless to resist them. Even their best troops will not have the strength to stand. The invader, which is Antiochus III the Great, who's now invading Egypt, the successor Ptolemy V now. He will establish himself as in a beautiful land. Antiochus III did that. He established himself in the beautiful land, which is the land of Israel, and he will have the power to destroy it. He ruled it and conquered it, ruled over it. He will determine to come to the might of his entire kingdom. He'll be determined to come with the might of his entire kingdom and will make an alliance with the king of the south. He did that. Antiochus from Syria, mainly, the king of the north, the Seleucid dynasty, Antiochus III, made a pact with the now Ptolemy V, the king of the south, which is Egypt mainly area. And Antiochus III, will give his daughter in marriage in order to overthrow the kingdom. I'll explain after a couple of verses. But his plans will not stand or succeed him because he had a ruse to make a pact with them anyhow, but he wanted to take it over. Then he will turn his attention to the coast, and I'll just leave it at 17 before I take 18. Now, let me read here something here. Hang on. That was called the Fourth Syrian War, when Antiochus IV first went out and attacked Antiochus III. Okay? And stopped the Seleucid. Antiochus expanding his empire, his land. Okay, now hang on. Oh, well, where was I here? $18. I don't know if I have that written down here, but I think it was Cleopatra. I don't think I have that written down here. Yeah, I think it was Cleopatra the first, to my memory. Syra. I'm pretty sure it was that one that started Cleopatra. Yeah. Cleopatra the first, Syra. I'm pretty sure it's that one. It's not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. Cleopatra the first, Cleopatra Syra, the daughter of Antiochus III, the Seleucid king in the Syria area. That's the one who he made a pact with him to marry her and to keep feasts. And he will give him his daughter, what I just said, in marriage, verse 17 here, in order to overthrow the kingdom. But his plans, I guess, what I think to my memory read, either way, I don't have time. It was a ruse, and it's in history. I think it was to make an agreement to co-rule or something. But either way, it didn't succeed, but they stayed married. I think it was Cleopatra the first, Syra, to my memory. The first Cleopatra, again. 18. Then he will, Antiochus III, go back, mainly of Syria, the Seleucid dynasty, to turn his attention to the coastlands. But remember, the Roman Empire is taken over now. It wasn't over thereafter, the Greek Macedonian, but they weren't a world ruling empire of land. Remember what came after the Greek, Alexander the Great, it was split in four. So it wasn't a world empire of the known world, like the previous Babylon known world, Persian, and then the Greece, more land each time, because it was split in four now, 25% each. Okay? So the Roman power was coming to being, right, which taking everything over slowly. They're the ones who came and turned back Antiochus as he was trying to get more land along the coast, Mediterranean. It was a commander. It says here, if plans will not be successful, then he will turn his attention to the coast and will take many of them. Yes, some, but a commander will put an end to his insolence and will turn his insolence back upon him. And that was the Roman. Let me see if I can find it here. Hang on, I got it written here. That was a Roman here who stopped him. Okay, stopped Antiochus the Great the Third, but to go back and send it back to Egypt. Here, let me see what I got here on that part. Okay, the father. Okay, Antiochus the Third. He tried to make alliance with the young Ptolemy V, as I said, and he gave his daughter in marriage, but to have a controlling agreement. See, it was a ruse, a machination, a stratagem, a plot, a scheme to overthrow him. But the diplomat commander, as it says, a commander here will stop him from the Romans as they're starting to take power of the world, the Romans. His name was Gaius, excuse me, Gaius Pompilius Laenas gave a famous line in the sand. He drew the line in the sand where you get that. And then he drew a circle, and he was in it with Antiochus, from the Syrian North Seleucid dynasty, Antiochus III again, the Great. And he said, you leave out of here. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Give me a second here. Okay, I'm going to take that back. There was a lot of duality. That was the next son of Antiochus the Third, the Great, which was Antiochus Epiphanes. I'll get to that, what I just said. Scratch that last part. Either way, there was a Roman commander who put an end to Antiochus the Great, the Third, and he went back to his kingdom, okay? Yeah, because that was against the Ptolemy in Egypt, the fifth, Ptolemy the Fifth, okay? Now, where am I here? And again, he goes against the Holy Land. He took it over. A commander will put an end to his insolence and turn his insolence back upon him, okay? That was a Roman commander back to Antiochus, Seleucid king, the Third, the Great, back to Syria, right? So that he left and didn't conquer, again, the Seleucid, the Ptolemy king, the Fifth, in the Egypt main area, okay? He went back home and he was stumbled and he'll be seen no more. His successor, now his son. His successor will send out a tax collector. Well, the Romans were really, his successor really for a time, the Romans, I think that's what it is here. They put a heavy tax, 15,000 or some ridiculous tax on him, okay? But he will be destroyed, and yet not in anger and battle. I guess they got rid of him or whatever. But then it says here, he will be succeeded because he died, Antiochus the Great, the Third, and the Romans had a big tax in there, and there was a couple. They're fighting until the next one here, which is verse 25. He will be succeeded by a contemptible person who has not been given the honor of royalty. Now, I'll stop it right there. The right to because the Romans were fighting, right, getting power against Antiochus the Third, the Great. Remember, they got him out of Egypt, and I think they captured his son, which was Antiochus the Fourth now. And he was in Egypt. I think he was in Rome in captivity. or Antiochus Epiphanes was in Rome in captivity. But either way, somebody assassinated Antiochus IV, because Antiochus IV was the eldest, and Antiochus and Epiphanes were the two sons of Antiochus III the Great. So the heir was Antiochus IV, but he was assassinated. I don't have time to get the detail of everything. Okay, so what's his name was Antiochus Epiphanes, the other son. So Antiochus IV, who was assassinated, had a child. Well, was too young, but he was the heir. Remember, the heir by blood. You know what I mean? Because the oldest, and now him. And that's what it means. But Antiochus Epiphanes was in Rome, I think, and he came back there, and he ruled co-regent, which means his brother's son right to the throne. His brother Antiochus IV's son was just a child, a young boy, and so he was co-regent. But he beguiled his way. See, he didn't have a right. He was the bloodline, Antiochus Epiphanes, but he was the younger. He wasn't the bloodline. He got it through intrigue. Okay, by the murder of someone else killing his brother. He was co-regent. Made a deal with the young boy. He told him lies, and then later on he had him murdered. Antiochus, the brother of the brother of Antiochus IV, killed Antiochus IV's young son in a ruse to take power. Okay, that's what's going to say here. His successor, that's Antiochus. His successor, the successor of Antiochus III the Great. Verse 21. He will be succeeded. Antiochus the Great III will be succeeded by his second son, because the oldest was killed. He will be a contemptible person. Everything he did, I said, right? Who has not been given the honor of royalty, because I just explained that he wasn't the eldest, right? He will invade the kingdom when his people feel secure, as I said, and he will seize it through intrigue. I told you that. He was co-regent, which means he looked after his brother's son and told him lies, and then he had him off, killed him through intrigue to gain the seat. And that's why he wasn't of blood. He wasn't of a real, as it says there, king lineage. Well, he was of blood, but not in the rightful way of succeeding, as I explained. Then an overwhelming army will be swept away before him. He had a big battle with the prince of the covenant will be destroyed. That's the prince, the young boy. He was the prince, right? Because his father was the king. That was the fourth, right? Antiochus IV, the prince's son, was killed by the brother Antiochus Epiphanes, as I just explained. He won a big war against King of the South, and he took out the prince, the young boy, right? He lied. Through intrigue, he got it. As I explained, he wasn't the rightful heir in line, even though he's close sanguine blood related. After coming to an agreement with him, that's what I just said with the young boy, he will act deceitfully, right? And he killed him. Antiochus Epiphanes killed the young boy, the prince of the covenant, right? Meaning the agreement to take power. And with a few people, he will rise to power through all his intrigue, what he did. When the richest province feels secure, he will invade it and will achieve what his fathers nor he keep winning wars around there did. He did more. Antiochus Epiphanes. He will distribute plunder, loot, which he did to his followers. Julius Caesar did the same, but Antiochus Epiphanes did that. He liked to reward his followers, his soldiers and stuff and such. He will plot the overthrow of fortresses, kingdoms, and that, but only for a time. With a large army, he, Antiochus Epiphanes, will strengthen his strength and courage, and he will attack the king of the south and will wage war. And at that point, when he attacked the king of the south, it was the Ptolemy dynasty still, and it was Ptolemy VI now. And I think that was don't quote me, but I think that's the 6th Syrian war it's called. Okay, and then the king of the south will wage war against him back with a huge and very powerful army. That's Ptolemy VI. But Ptolemy VI will not stand because of the plots devised against him. Those who eat from the king's provisions will try to destroy him. I'll comment after. His army will be swept away by Ptolemy by the king of the north, Seleucid, Antiochus Epiphanes. So Ptolemy of the south, Egypt, the sixth, lost. He'll be swept away the south. The two kings, with their hearts bent on evil, will sit at the table and lie to each other. They did that, promising this and that. At the end, but the end will come at the point of time. The king of the north will return. That Antiochus Epiphanes return to the north with great wealth, but his heart will be set against the holy covenant. He will take action against it and then return to his own country. Okay, what happened here? That's verse 28. What happened here in the middle of this? Antiochus Epiphanes, he's the one who was stopped by the Romans, because the Romans were gaining power, as I said, and were stopping them. And that was, let me read here what I got here. Or else he would have destroyed. He was gaining the upper hand, the whole Ptolemy dynasty, and the last king would have been Ptolemy the sixth. Let me see where I am here. Yeah, he almost brought an end. Antiochus Epiphanes, the king now of Seleucid in the Syria area, he almost brought an end to the Ptolemaic, right? Which was the last king, which would have been the last king, Ptolemy the sixth, okay, in Egypt. And at that time, as it says, there's some Jewish fought and such, and the Romans. Give me a second here. Okay, here. Now that Roman was the famous Gaius Pompilius Lanus. What I said earlier was getting crossed. Anyhow, so much here. He's the one who drew what you get today, a famous line in the sand, and he drew a circle, and he was in it with Antiochus Epiphanes, right, the ruler of Syria in the north. And he said, you step out of here, it means we're war with Rome, basically. In other words, you agree to get the heck out of here, okay? So he basically stepped out and agreed just to get out of there, okay? Okay, so back to here, the Bible here. Okay, 20, where was I? Okay, 28, that's when the king of the north, Antiochus Epiphanes, returned to the north, will return to his own country with great wealth, but his heart will be set, because he was mad, he set against the Holy Land. That's the land of Israel, okay, to take it in action. And this is the second time that they set up, you'll read here, the abomination, what's called abomination desolation. Sorry, this is the first time. I'm going ahead of myself here. The second time was after Christ, right? The destroying the temple, 70 AD, where Titus did the warring for his later father, Emperor Vespasian, and set up what's known as Jupiter, right, in the Holy of Holies. And here, what you read here, it was Zeus he set up, Antiochus Epiphanes. He got mad, he lost to Rome, got him out of there. He attacked the Holy Land, what it says here. I'll read it from 29. And at the point of time, he will invade the south again, but this time not be... Okay, no, here it is again. He returned to his own country and his own heart, and he went against the Holy Covenant, which means the Holy Land. Enough said. 29. At the point of time, he tried to attack the south again, but this time, I went ahead of myself. They constantly attacked each other. But now, when he attacked the king of the south, Antiochus Epiphanes from the Seleucid dynasty in the north, when he came back to attack the king of the south, Epiphanes the sixth, Ptolemy the sixth, that's when, I got ahead of myself last time. It was just another little skirmish. But now, that's when the Romans helped him, and that guy I mentioned, Gaius, and the two other names I don't remember, okay, stopped him. At that point in time, he will, Antiochus Epiphanes attacked the king of the south, Ptolemy the sixth. But this time the outcome will be different, right? Because ships from the west, that's west of Greece is Rome, and they said the commanders came with ships. Well, they used the Mediterranean faster, right, to stop him. Will oppose him. So the Romans opposed Antiochus Epiphanes, the Seleucus dynasty, the Seleucus. Anyways, give me a second here. The Seleucid dynasty in the north, right? And he had to go back. And that's where everything I said, the line in the sand and everything, okay? That's just one little skirmish ahead, okay? I got it one back earlier. Okay, now, and then he'll return to his own, he'll take action against the Holy Land because he's mad, okay? At the point of time, okay, and let me see where I am here. He'll turn back the Holy Covenant. There you go. He's attacked the Holy Covenant when he lost to Rome, told him to get out of Egypt. I just explained that. And he will return, that's verse 30, and show favor to those who forsake the Holy Covenant. There's some turncoats, some treasonous Jews themselves who went for him, right? Antiochus and Epiphanes instead of their own country, and right. Those who show favor to him and forsake the Holy Covenant, the ways of the Jews. Okay, his armed forces, Antiochus Epiphanes, still will rise up to desecrate the temple. That's what he did. I'll just read it and then comment. And the fortress, and will about, this is the first time before 70 AD. And they will set up, and they didn't destroy the whole temple here. That was in 70 AD, other than the Wailing Walls left that they wail today, you know. And then he will set up the abomination, the desolation, the first time here. In this case was the Zeus. Okay, the latter in 70 was Jupiter, they say. With flattery, he will corrupt those who have violated the covenant. In other words, the traitors again, the Jews, traitors. In other words, paying them off, probably like everything through history to this day going on. People who know their God will firmly resist the meaning at this point before the New Testament, the Jews and that, right? And they're keeping the Holy Covenant, meaning the Old Testament still in this time period. Verse 33, those who are wise will instruct many. I'll comment at the end a couple of verses here. Though for a time they will fall by the sword or burned or captured or plundered. When they fall, they will receive a little help by God or either way through somebody. Many who are not sincere will join them, meaning the traitors will join Antiochus Epiphanes. Some of the wise will stumble, the good people, they'll stumble through the hard times, we know, so that they may be refined. Oh, like Christians here, but this is Old Testament, still the Testament of the day. Some of the good people will stumble like sin, but they'll be made pure like of gold, like trials, and come to their senses. And until the time of the end, for it will still come at a point in time. But again, it's again like the Bible. This could be Christians too, because now it says to the time of the end, like the very end, very, very end, when Christ comes back. You know what I mean? That also applies too. They'll go through trials and stuff and be refined. Okay. Now said there, verse 36, the king who exalts himself. Let me read here for a second. Okay, now I think, let me go back here. Okay. Now that the king who exalts himself, that's a caption for verse 36 all the way to the end. Now, this is the most confusing part, 36 all the way to 45. This is most likely, in my opinion, referring to Satan. Again, God rules, sets up rulers, decides who the war is all for his plan, or else he wouldn't be control to the end until his kingdom comes. And he uses Satan like he did with Job, to cast all those things, bad things to Job, other than taking his life. Anyways, to prove that he's a good man. And so I think this is, because it says here, I'll read, the king will do as he pleases. He will, and then he rules the kings under God, Satan and God, and he gives his power to the kings. And I don't know who the kings are from this point to the end, because it says to the very end. Okay, it's too confusing, But either way, I'll read it and comment a little bit as I go. The king, which I believe is Satan, as I explained, will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god. And Satan himself originally tried to knock God off his throne, right? Even the Roman emperors, they're considered deified after their death, not whilst they lived. He'll consider himself above every god and will say unheard. So little clues here, what I just said, of things against God of gods, right? Try to knock God off this road. He will be successful in until the time of wrath is completed. In other words, God used him, as I explained, for time of wrath and all the wars here and there to the very end. And again, this is the part where you don't know what is what till the end. Okay, you'll be successful till time of wrath is up. Okay, and then how much time here am I going? I got to go here. He'll show no regard to God, to himself. And again, you can read it here. We don't know who the South is or anything other than I'll say, when Christ comes, there's not going to be wars. It doesn't say that. He'll say the armies will attack Jesus coming back, thinking he's probably an alien from outer space. Okay, and it also says this, which I believe Satan, after he's tied up 1,000 years, he'll be released, and he goes and gets the kings of the Gog and Magog. So that says right in the Bible. Not me dreaming it up. And they'll be all destroyed, and that's right to the time of the lake of fire. That's another story. Okay, the end, and everybody would need to be turned to spirit, other than the ones thrown in the lake of fire reject God, which is Satan's part of that, and the demons and the bad people, humans. Either way, so he does get to them, the Gog and Magog rush area at the end of 1,000 years. That's when God destroys them too. That's biblical of what's going to happen as far as wars. Okay, so I'm going through everything. This is so long. Okay, now I'll just read the last part because it shows us right to the end of time. He will pitch his royal tents, I believe it's Satan, again using humans, the beast, the empire, and the beast, the ruler, the human at the time, against the holy mountain, right? They go against God against the holy mountain after the 1,000 years, right? And also before, when Christ comes back, thinking he's an alien, he comes to Jerusalem in the Mount of Olives, and that's when they attack him there, right? So he I believe, saying using the human rulers, again, the holy mountain, that's another way of the land of Israel, and he will come to his end, that's Satan, and no one will help him. And then it goes to verse 12. I'll take it later. In that time, Michael, the great prince, it says there, I'll pick it up later. It's talking about the very end. Okay? Okay, bye.